A couple of days ago, I said that talks about Crysencio Summerville and Willie Nonto had gone really quiet, and there weren't rumours for a good while, and we were looking like we were in the clear. I feel a little bit silly now. That was something of a mistake because the rumour mill is grinding out more and more and more and more stories about the Crysencio Summerville potential move and the Willie Nonto potential move, and a Crysencio Summerville exit is looking increasingly likely, especially with the newest little bit of interest that has come from overseas, from elsewhere, and it's a move that genuinely looks like it makes a little bit of sense until you dive into it in a lot more detail. I'm going to run through all the Crysencio Summerville stories at the moment because we know there is a lot of interest, and here's the story so far before I get into the big new bit. First up, we knew that Chelsea had been discussed. We knew that he was of interest to Chelsea with Todd Boehly sniffing around a little bit, but instead they signed a young Brazilian winger because that's what Chelsea do. They sign youngsters and they come out of it like, oh, damn, how did we break PSR this time when they paid 5 times over the odds for average footballers? After the Chelsea conversations, there was a little bit about Liverpool, and those have gone somewhat quiet. Not heard anything about Somerville to Liverpool for a significant amount of time. In my opinion, I think it was someone sort of lazily linking Liverpool hiring Arne Slot, who used to be the boss at Feyenoord, Crysencio Summerville, who used to play at Feyenoord. There's a little bit of a link there, especially once Summerville got that Player of the Season badge in the Championship last season. Promising winger. They might be losing a winger or two. It's just a natural sort of clicky link that's very easy for any journalist to think up. There was a period of Brighton rumours kicking in, but Somerville reportedly rejected them, which I think makes sense. That fits with his personality because he's always been someone that is happy to sort of push himself. That time that he sort of claimed the number 10 shirt for himself was sort of really stamping his authority and saying, no, you know what, I am that good. And it feels like if he's pushing for a move, he might look slightly above Brighton, especially if they're in a bit of a wobbly spot. We don't know what they're going to look like with their new boss yet. In addition to that, Newcastle were being talked about, but that was because Anthony Gordon was apparently potentially moving to Liverpool, and Newcastle would therefore need a winger. That Anthony Gordon chat isn't ongoing anymore. It's gone very, very quiet. Imagine if it does happen, though. It feels like that one might not necessarily be happening just because it's gone a little bit muted, but we've got to keep an eye on all the news, and we have had some major foreign interest in Crysencio Summerville that came out earlier today. And the specific story is that Rennes are considering a move for Crysencio Summerville, considering following their signing of Glenn Kamara. Can you tell that I'm recording this at like 1 in the morning? Rennes making this move makes a little bit of sense, and I'll dive into why first. But first, we've got to talk about the story itself and how reliable it could be. It was reported by Foot Mercato, specifically by the journalist. I cannot see his name. Sébastien Denis, who, fair enough, is a reasonably reliable reporter in France. Foot Mercato are quite good at French football because they are based over there, and basically website name being Football Mercato Market, they focus on transfer stuff more than anything else. And it's especially relevant because the French side quite desperately will need to replace Désiré Doué. Why did I try that at 1 in the morning? Désiré Doué. There we go. Who hasn't left yet, but is rumoured to be going to one of Bayern Munich or PSG. Obviously, they want to make sure that they have a player lined up to come in once he goes out, so they will be looking to do so. There's a little further note as well in this little article that I spotted. PSG have taken information without going any further, that being on the Crysencio Summerville thing rather than Desiree Doué, which says that there's a lot of interest in Summerville from all across the continent, so it might not necessarily have to be a Premier League move for him, but I'll get into that soon. Further down in the report, it also stated that the best player in the Championship is targeted by 4 English clubs, including Chelsea. There was a lot of leaning on Chelsea here, which was weird for me, but I guess it's a big name, who knows. Fabrizio Romano also noted a price tag of £35 to £40 million for him, which went a little bit against what was said in the report, but I'll get to that in a moment. One of the big questions around this entire thing, though, is can Rennes feasibly get the move done? Rennes, you look at them and you think relatively small club in France, not small club, but like not one of the biggest clubs in France. But weirdly, I feel like Rennes for Summerville might be a uniquely attractive proposition. You need to remember that they are a club that has consistent involvement in European competitions. They're consistently in the Europa League, in the Champions League, up and around those areas, and the only reason they have to do a big sale this summer of the likes of Desiré Doué and Enzo Lefebvre, who went to Roma, is because they're not in Europe this season, but they are building in a way that they're pushing to be there next season. And it's easier to qualify for Europe in France because the standard level of Ligue 1 is comfortably below that of the Premier League. And in my opinion, it's going to be a club where he's going to get reasonable chances of continental football whilst almost definitely starting, which you wouldn't necessarily get if he does go to a Liverpool or a Chelsea or a Newcastle, because they have established bases of talent already. Harvey Barnes can't get in at Newcastle right now, so Summerville, who knows how it would turn out for him. Add on to that the fact that the wages wouldn't be half bad because he'd have European money coming into his club. Yeah, it's a reasonably good proposition for him, but at the same time, you need to talk about whether or not Rennes themselves can get that deal done. We need to remember that Desiré Doué will bring in significant amounts of money. The numbers I've sort of 50 million euros sort of level, which is a lot of cash. And at the same time, this report says that the rough estimate of Summerville's value, according to some algorithm, would be 20 million euros. That isn't happening. And that was noted in the comments on this article, where someone has clearly been keeping track of this entire thing and what's been going on with Summerville, but from a French perspective, which is quite interesting. And I'm going to read this in French first, and then we're going to translate it. Paris avait proposé, I can't remember what 25 is in French, millions d'euros, mais Leeds a déchiré l'offre parisienne et ils veulent 47 million euros. Liverpool était intéressé, mais ils ont été refroidis par le prix demandé par Leeds. Basically, PSG offered 25 million euros and we said no, and demanded 47 million euros, which I think is 40 million pounds ish. I don't roughly know what the conversion rate is, but Liverpool were also interested, but they sort of may have decided against it given the price. Which, in that case, Rennes are almost certainly out of the conversation, because the reason they are selling the likes of Doué and Enzo Lefebvre is because they won't have the cash for PSR and stuff, or the French equivalent, next season. So it would be stupid to sell Desiré Doué for 50 million and then buy Summerville for 47, because you're sort of deepening your own problems there, if that makes sense. I feel like Rennes probably not in that conversation anymore. But ultimately, what does this all mean at the end of the day? Ultimately, I doubt we keep Crysencio Summerville throughout this transfer window. I'd love it. He's a great player and would rip up the championship again next season. But there is way too much interest in him right now for Leeds United to feasibly be able to say, yeah, we are confident we'd be able to keep him. I am of the opinion that it is very, very good to see that we're sticking with our firm price tags, if that statement on the 47 million euros is true, because, as Parag Marathe said, every player has a price. If a club wants to reach it, sure. If we've set that price tag and no one's gotten there, it can't be easy to turn down 25 million euros, so us sticking to it is a very, very promising sign. At the end of the day, it's likely not to be Rennes, but as much interest as possible in Crysencio Summerville will be good for us at this point. It means that there can be a bidding war where clubs are fighting it against each other to get the most desirable package for us, to get the highest possible fee for us, and ultimately to persuade us to sell to them and not one of their rivals. At the end of the day, anything that pushes that fee higher and higher and higher can only be a benefit for Leeds United, because I don't see us keeping Summerville, so we might as well do what we can with it. But with all that in mind, I do want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments down below what you think is going to go on with the Summerville situation, whether we will sell him or not. Where it'll go, that's a fairly big one. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. That's always fantastic. Even become a channel member if you like, and I will see you later. I just want to make videos about players coming in, man. Why has it got to be so hard? Why have they got to be so sneaky, the 49ers? That bastards. See you later.